there, this is part 10, the last part of the series, and this one is on how to get the most out of your RC vehicle. That is not just the engine plays a big part of this video, but that is the whole car as a whole, how to get the most out of it. Let's go to the first point. First point is, many people will do this, I've done it, and I've regretted it, so I don't do it anymore. The first thing is, when you need a part, buy it. Do not make do with other parts. In other words, if your engine screws go, do not use any other screw apart from the engine screws, because that causes more troubles. That is just a random example, but you should always buy the proper parts when they are needed. Because not only that, when something breaks, if you just carry on running it, then it is more than likely that you are going to end up breaking more things, which means more money to spend, more parts to fit. Now, obviously, if you think that that's worth it, an extra 10 minutes driving on a Sunday afternoon, then fine, you carry on. But personally, I would recommend to any beginner or any person that when something breaks, you should stop driving and you should order the parts and not drive your car again until the parts have been fitted. Because it's like driving down the road in a real car and the exhaust falls off. Now, I've seen that where people just carry on driving, leaving their exhaust behind. Basically, I'm sure that's not recommended. Or they drive down the road with it hanging on the floor. I'm sure that's not recommended. So, it's like carry on driving a car with an exhaust hanging off. You wouldn't do it. So, for example, if, this is a really random thing, but for example, if our antenna tube snapped, or our antenna snapped here, and you thought, oh, we'll just carry on driving it, don't. Because what that would do is you will lose range, which means it will crash into something, and that is going to cost you a lot more money than just a new antenna tube would. So, it's just little things like that. It's, you know, basically looking after your cars, because they are just mini versions of the real thing. These require a lot of maintenance and a lot of care and a lot of time as well. You have to buy it, not only thinking, oh, this is going to be a great racing hobby, you also need to think of the maintenance side of things, and you need to count that as part of the hobby. In other words, do not drive your RC vehicle, love driving it, but then hate repairing it, because repairing these is possibly the main part of this hobby. Now, that is the first thing. The second thing is actually the diff gearboxes and the gearboxes. Now, replacing these gears when needed is essential. This is the spur gear, and this one will wear out often. Now, if you drive the car with one of these broken or worn out, you're going to have troubles then with the bell gear. Often if you drive it with a bad spur gear, you are going to damage the bell gear. So that is basically just another example of, you know, replacing parts when needed. I'd also recommend to have a few of these at the spare as well. Next thing is oiling and using oils. Now, first oil you should always use is the air filter oil. Second oil you should always use is the after run oil. And the third oil, or the third thing you should do, is regularly Loctite or thread lock your RC vehicle. You should do these things regularly in order for your no screws to be lost and your engine to last its longest. Moving on to the engine is, first thing is you should use a fuel filter. Now you can see I've put one in here. Fuel filters are very, very cheap, but when driving your RC cars, often you might get dirt in the tank. You can see here I have dirt and all sorts of other stuff around the edges of my tank. Now that is thing, if dirt actually gets into the tank, then the engine will get that dirt in it. Now, if you have these fuel filters nicely fastened into here, then they will catch any dirt particles. That makes your nitro engine last longer, because then you don't have to worry about cleaning carbs. Lastly, tuning. Always tune your RC vehicle properly. That is the first thing you should do. I've seen videos on YouTube, they say stuff like, oh, first running before it's been tuned, or something like that. That you should not do that, because that is damaging your engine. Now, I don't think people quite realise just how important the tuning is, because if you get your tuning wrong, not only might your engine overheat or die, also it's actually pretty dangerous, because these are engines, and if you don't tune them properly, I've had an engine fire before, and that was not pleasant. You don't want to hear about the details. It just ended up in, let's just say, a natural disaster, and yeah, now that wasn't my fault. That was just old engine age, and fuel got spilt, and you know, it just caught fire. That was an old car, you've never seen it. But the thing is, you must tune your engines properly, because tuning will make your engine last longer. It will make your car last longer, which means that then you can have longer runtime, and that means you've got longer years with your RC vehicle. You can always replace the engine, but you should always get about, I don't know, loads of running time out of these. I mean, I know someone who's got through about 20 bottles that size. I don't know, that must be like 10 gallons, and his engine is still fine. Trust me on that. I'll try and get a video up, actually. That's a VRX1 Pro. But, happy driving. This is the last part of the series, and I hope you have found it educational. The last thing I'm going to say is, look after your vehicle, and it will look after you. In other words, if you look after your car, it's going to look after you with a lot of hours of driving fun, bashing fun, cleaning fun, and making video fun. Thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed this series and found it most educational, and I hope that these things will help you to make your RC vehicle last longer and longer running time.